Welcome back to the GRADEx Show on Earth, powered by GRADEx Media. I'm James Cybulski, alongside the founder, the CEO, the business maker, the earth shaker, Fab Del Rio. We got a lot coming up here. Fab, how you doing this week?
Doing great. After a long Easter weekend and probably a bit too much eating, I'm feeling good, refreshed, ready to start the week.
Living the dream. Living the dream.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes. Indulging in all the chocolate, the holiday festivities. All right. Now it's time to actually eat a vegetable again on my part as well. So here's what we got coming up. We've got, hey, look, we're going to discuss Canada's surging MLB prospect, WWE rookie cards as we lock into WrestleMania, more Ohtani awesomeness. But first, let's play Mythbusters. What do you say, Fab? You ready to play a little Mythbuster?
Sounds good, my man. Let's do it.
So if we go back to the days, the unk ages, as my kids might say to me, you look at cards from, going back in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and there was this whole dynamic of the Friday cut, right? And the off-center and maybe the old wires cutting the cards and, no matter, right out, you opening up a pack of cards and there you got this gorgeous Gretzky rookie and off-centered, like so many of them, right? Mm-hmm. Now there's this perception that, hey, the technology, everything is mint, crisp, clean. I'm getting a 10v10, 10 out of 10. I'm getting a pristine right as soon as I rip this packaging open. But maybe not the case.
Yeah, it's one of those things, like you said, a myth where, obviously we've made so many advances in printing, and I come at this at a different angle. Part of my role when I worked in the game was production, as VP of production and product development. And the production side meant going to the printing facility, doing print proof checks. It meant seeing samples off the line. It meant seeing how the boxes looked, how the wrapper looked. And the one thing that I really picked up on with the whole production process is it is very human. There is a lot of handling between, memorabilia cards is another big side of it, but you have the bulk cards, the base cards that come off the sheets and are cut by machine, and they go down these rollers, and then they're sorted based on drop ratio. And there's many steps to the process where the slightest little thing can go wrong, whether it's one pallet bumping into another, or humans physically handling the cards, whether you take a sleeve of cards off the printing press and move them along. It isn't just print and they go into packs. There's many steps to the process, and I think it would be good to do something in depth on the whole production process as well, in terms of something that we could add to the website. But that's one thing I think a lot of people misunderstand is they expect mint cards, and of course, like, the process is so much better than it used to be. And the opportunities to get more mint cards, of course, are stronger than what they used to be. But all it takes is one little nick or one little grain of sand that ends up on the final coating process of the chrome that can leave either a dimple or a scratch, or even as the pages are going through what they call rollers, there can be a common scratch that happens. And it really is an involved process that there is opportunity for plenty of things to go wrong. But the end consumer today, they only want the gem mint card. Even in grading with modern cards, people get pretty disappointed when they get a mint 9. And, hopefully that'll be something that maybe changes or evolves over the years. But there's no question that the production process there's a lot of pieces to it. And that's part of why we have grading. And that's that's just part of the business. You just can't get it perfect every time. And of course, different types of technologies, printing processes, finishes, having full bleed versus borders, they all have different challenges. But yeah, getting a gem mint card is definitely tough, and especially in trading cards versus trading card games like Pokemon, where they use different materials. They have rounded corners, which are obviously a lot easier to mask any potential dings. So it does make a difference. And if people are looking at population reports, they'll notice the gem mint rate for TCGs is significantly higher than a lot of trading cards overall. And yeah, it's not an easy process. It's obviously improved over the years, but hey, we can't be expecting gem mint cards out of every pack.
No, but I think probably the difference is now compared to the days where there might be a piece of bubble gum, right? That,
Good point.
leaving a film, a little more human error in terms of cutting the hand cut cards, where you might pull a card right out of a pack, and now right out of the gate you might be looking at a 5 just because of how off centered it is, or depending on what that all looks like. Where now the edges might be sharper. We obviously now have the mindset to say, you know what, I'm going to slab this right away, with the sort of idea that we didn't have going back, say 20, 30, 40 years ago. But I guess maybe you're not looking at as low a grade on the outset, but people are probably still expecting more of a 10 right out of the gate now. But it's still possible to land a 7 with a brand new card, despite the technology advancements.
Absolutely, yeah. And a lot of it is for the reasons I mentioned. But when it comes down to grading, what did the card look like coming out of a pack? So you use the example of O-Pee-Chee over the years, right? Especially in the 70s and 80s.
Got my O-Pee-Chee shirt here today. Look at
oh my God, look at that. It's like we set it up. That's a beautiful thing. Graders should know how the card looked coming out of the pack, right? There's, like I was saying, with O-Pee-Chee, there is that classic rough O-Pee-Chee cut that is expected. And for those that understand cards of that era, we know that the 7980 O-Pee-Chee, that you will see little ticks of white along the edges. It's almost virtually every single copy looks that way. And it's actually different than the tops. The tops cutting process was a lot cleaner, and they have more clean edges and corners. So a lot of it is relative. A gem mint card from the 70s is not the same as a gem mint card from today. And it's that idea of understanding what the card looks like pack fresh.
It's not always a 10, everybody. 10s are still 10s, and scarcity, even though there's more of them on the market now because we're more mindful about slabbing them and putting them not maybe in an old waxy photo album like we did in the 1950s, damaging backings and all of it. Actually, it's funny. I did that with it's funny to look back, like, how we treat things even in the 1980s. Back in the 80s, we're coming up on WrestleMania weekend, so just a little side nerdy wrestling story for you. Remember Hostess in Canada had those wrestling stickers?
Yes.
And so I think they did 2 series of those, and I collected all of them. And so thinking that I am going to take care of these, I'd take them out of the plastic. I put them in like one of those photo album pages and had
the sticky pages.
The sticky pages, and
those.
Now somewhere in the last 10 years I pulled it up like, oh, look at these, and went to pull that sticky, and then like, the backings are all screwed now as a result because of those, sitting there for 35 years or 30 years in those packages. Like, well, a lesson learned, Cybulski. Lesson learned.
Those are nice cards. You can still find them. You can find them in the little baggies still.
Yes. And some people were smarter than I was.
Funny thing about those sets, one year they did the movie Big. And I believe that is Tom Hanks's first ever appearance on a trading card, or of any card of any kind. So I don't remember collecting those. Did you? That would have been
Nope.
around,
No, I don't
what,
even
88?
remember those. Like, yeah, because that movie came out in '87, and so that would have been
87?
around the same time as those
Yeah.
Hostess. Like,
Yeah.
I think it was around WrestleMania 3, the first sets of cards, and so yeah, not everything's a 10, everybody. Not everything is a 10. Okay. It's playoff time in the Stanley Cup postseason. What a time. Hockey is just amazing, especially that first round. Like, nothing better when you come to round one of the NHL playoffs. And, we could a whole other debate is, the interest kind of wanes if your team's out of it. And, but like that first round and just everything happening, game sevens here, there, and everywhere, all the drama, the upsets, just a great time for hockey. But we've touched on this in past episodes, but one of the grail cards in hockey and in the sport is a Lord Stanley. Lord Frederick Stanley has a rookie card or a trading card, however you want to term it, however you want to deem it, however you want to define it. But Lord Stanley has a card from going back more than a century ago here, Fab. And there is one, they don't come up often, but it's going to auction. What can you tell us?
That's right. So, yeah, we did talk about it a couple of weeks ago, the 1889 Allen and Ginter World Sovereign set. So all kinds of, leaders of nations in the set. And, of course, the Governor General of Canada, Lord Stanley, happened to be in the set 3 years before he donated the Stanley Cup. And so, yeah, we just learned about a week or so ago that an auction house called, let me get this right, Vintage Non-Sports Auctions.com, they have a PSA 4.
It's a nice, easy name, huh?
I know.
It rolls off the tongue.
Let me see if I got that right. Vintage Non-Sport Auctions.
Oh, the acronym's really good. Vanessa.
And it looks like a really nice copy too, like a well-centered, it has strong eye appeal. And the term eye appeal means that a card might not be a perfect card, but typically if it's well-centered, well-registered, like good focus and good color, that's described as having good eye appeal. And this card has that. And even as a 4, that's a nice card for its age, but specifically for, it's such an important card now. And so that's part of an auction that's coming up. When was it here?
In the fall, I think.
In the fall,
October,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's
early
right.
November? Yeah.
Good memory, sir.
What do you think that thing? No, okay. Let me just throw that at you because anybody who's watching this on YouTube, anybody listening right now and following along on social channels or subscribe to the podcast, give us a prediction.
Sure, put me on the spot.
Whatever. Put a number on it. Put a number on it.
So let me think about it, because non-sport has been on fire probably for the last 6 months. And
just a side note to that, we can even use an example as polarizing as he is. I can't remember if we touched on this or not, but we had alluded to the fact that Donald Trump had a card recently that went for what, $500,000? What was
it? Did. Yeah,
a one of one? I think one of those 1-of-1s, right?
It was, a gold 1-of-1 from Leaf. I believe it was part of their Leaf Pop Century. And it was, I think, graded a 9 with a 9 quality on the autograph. And it's the 1-of-1, and it's from his time at The Apprentice. I think it's from 2012. That is the highest selling non-sport trading card of all time, tied with Mickey Mouse, Donald Trump and Mickey Mouse, at $500,000 US, which is incredible. The Mickey Mouse is a modern card, I believe, from 2023. Again, a 1-of-1. It's a Topps Disney Superfractor. So kind of interesting that the top of the non-sport trading card world are 2 modern cards. But non-sport is quite different than sports cards. There's a lot of transactions that aren't necessarily public. A lot of the biggest cards aren't necessarily shown off as much as in sports. But there's no question that non-sport is really starting to get the respect and love that it probably deserved for a long time. And I'll give you another example. We've been talking a lot again about first appearances, and especially when it comes to non-sport, it's important. So the 1966 Donruss Marvel set is the first Marvel card set ever made. And the way it works with that set, each character has 11 cards in the set, but the first card in their series of 11 is considered the key card, or the rookie or whatever you want to call it, whatever.
The first one of the set, The
first one of the series is the one people collect the most. And it's very evident by how many are sold, the prices, all of that. So as an example, we'll talk about the Spider-Man because I like Spider-Man. He's
card also the one that moves the number. He moves the needle. Spidey.
That's right. He's Spidey. He's the Air Jordan of Marvel. There's no question about it. He has the most cards for the biggest bucks. And so his card number 34, a year ago, I use this as a specific example, a PSA 6 would go for about $600. And the 6 is a nice copy, not perfect, but a nice copy. I believe there's probably about 40 to 45 copies graded at that grade level, and one sold about a week and a half ago for $7,000. That's a year after it sold for $600. So that is really telling you that people are waking up to this stuff. Now, the one thing I will say, if those who follow social media and business and all of that, they're probably very familiar with a gentleman named Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V, as people know him by. And he's a famous public speaker. He has an amazing resume. He runs an ad agency, and he's a collector. And he literally has probably 10 million followers across all of his platforms. And he's been talking about these cards a lot. So it appears that there are new collectors or investors or followers of Gary that might be jumping on board with this. Mm-hmm. So he's had an impact on the trading card industry. This is the second time he's had a real impact. The other time was probably right in the smack of COVID 2021. And he was talking about soccer cards and, Ronaldo and Messi. Why aren't they worth the same as Michael Jordan and Derek Jeter? And then those cards really saw a jump. Yeah. So there's no question he's part of the market. When he speaks, his Gary V people, they jump. So that is part of the equation as well. So collectors, especially traditional non-sport collectors, are a little weary. They're probably cashing out a little bit, like, okay, this thing just 10x'd in a year. I should probably, pull some money out of it. And if it goes back down, I got a chance to rebuy at a lower price. So people are a little cautious, but it is exciting to see. I mean, the bottom line, there are people that believe that these cards should be getting the same respect as sports cards. And to me, I call that.
So do you put that Lord Stanley? Do you see that as a sports card, or do you see that as a non-sport?
Right, and that's what I was getting at, is that this.
Now you're blended both, like it's a multiverse.
It is a multiverse. That's exactly right. What non-sport is getting stronger because sports fans are getting into it. Yeah. And now we're talking about a non-sport card, but the guy's famous because of sports, and now both sides may be interested in it. That's what's fun about non-sport and entertainment cards, is you're not quite sure of the audience you're going to get, and it's pretty volatile. Like, a lot of it goes along with, for instance, again, Spider-Man. We got announcing the new movie coming out, and we talked last time about Mario Brothers, and anything Donkey Kong, Nintendo, Mario is going crazy. So these things definitely have a bit of a seasonality to them. But it's exciting, it makes for interesting stories, and it reminds you of like what's important in popular culture. And so I guess I'm tiptoeing around your question. You want a dollar figure on this thing, on the Lord Stanley. So like I said, I think we're in a very different place in terms of people's awareness of this card, the fact that it exists, first of all. Second of all, its importance. And third, where non-sports is in general. I would say this has a chance to probably get to that, 40, 50 range, because it is a nice one. I was able to see the high res image of it, and it looks good. It's freshly graded as well, whatever that means, but it's typically by the serial number or the certification number on the PSA holder, whether the card was recently graded or maybe graded years ago. So people believe that the standards today are stricter than what they were back in the day. So this could be, a very strong 4 compared to other 4s that have sold in the past. Again, I'd, get out our microscopes and look at the thing up close, but I would say it has a chance to be in that range, and that would be pretty cool, for a mid-grade to be like 40 to 50,000. I hope we don't have to do an edit on this part of the video or a little bubble underneath. But yeah, it'd be cool. It'll make some news.
Absolutely, for sure. And we're talking about it already, and this is, we're talking more than 6 months away from going down. So all eyes we'll be anxiously awaiting to see how it all plays out. I think November 9th is the closing of the auction there. So there you go. Thank you for everybody who stayed with us, as I believe that just took 13 minutes for us to answer that question, how much we think that card is going to go for. Look at.
Do you remember the first episode we talked about long-winded and all that? Yeah. Geez.
Good luck cutting this down in 90 seconds. Yes, I think our editor deserves a huge raise after this episode here now. I want to go to baseball here, and we've got a fascinating thing over the last few weeks. We've talked about Shohei Ohtani, a 1-of-1 card going for $3 million, and then at the same time, there was a 1-of-1 signed by Ohtani and Aaron Judge, who is the second biggest star in the game, or if you live in New York, the biggest star in the game. And that goes for almost $1 million less. Yeah. So tell me this, why are people preferring Ohtani solo to other intergalactic stars with their names on the card as well?
It's amazing, right? Because there was anticipation that based on the $3 million sale of the Ohtani alone, that this could be $4, $5 million, get into the top 5, top 10 cards of all time. And it sold for less. And probably the thing that hits me the most is the Japanese market is so strong. And they love Ohtani. Love is not the word, adore, whatever it is. Ohtani is everything to them when it comes to baseball collecting. And I think that having another player on there detracts from the card. Because you would guess that there would be some well-to-do Japanese investors that would be very interested in that card and were probably in on the $3 million card, but it's a different story with Aaron Judge there. So that's the only thing that makes sense to me, because even the time of year, the Ohtani that went for $3 million, it was, I think, mid to late December when that one sold. That's typically a tricky time of year because in general, people are kind of in holiday mode and they're kind of backing away from collectibles a little bit. But, when you're talking in the $3 million range, that's a very different clientele. But, being the early part of 2026, I want to say it was probably around February, March. I think it ended in March. That's a strong time of year. That's when, getting close to baseball season, people are excited about collecting and, and it's just one of those things. I guess I think deep down it's the Japanese market, the Ohtani fanatics that appreciate him on his own on that piece.
That's my sort of thought, to where I think you look at somebody like Shohei, who is such a unicorn, and we've gone down this road before in terms of like that sort of Babe Ruth stratosphere. Now he's got a couple of championships. Like, if this guy's career comes to an end tomorrow, I think even in a small body of work in 7 years, I think he's probably getting into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, we talked about it last time, and I had friends of mine say, "You're right. He's already done enough."
Yeah,
and he's just so special. Like he's really a different cat. You know, the Dodgers are in town to play the Jays, and how do you dislike the guy even after he beat your brains out? You know, Jays fans, he maybe shot them down for the Dodgers. Hard to hate that guy. I mean, he's such a gentleman, and like we said, maybe the best athlete on the planet, just in terms of those fine skills. You know, baseball is obviously not an aerobic sport, but my God, the hand-eye coordination, the physical toll, people don't believe it, but baseball is brutal on the body. And, you know, to do both pitching and hitting, like he's an amazing dude.
Well, and I think to that point, like what we've seen in that sample size from Ohtani and his body of work, I think we could agree that you could say that guy's a Hall of Famer. Like what we've seen already in terms of how he's dominated. Now, on the flip side to that, we're looking at Aaron Judge, who I think he's going to be 34 actually in April. So he's going to be turning 34 here soon. And if he starts to break down in the next year or so, is he a Hall of Famer? His body of work right now? Probably not.
I don't know what his totals are.
Like he's got
to be what, 350 home runs?
Yeah, like I just quickly,
400?
he's 370 home runs, 371, a career 293 hitter. So
that's awesome.
Flirty. Yeah, no, very impressive in terms of what that average is. But, you know, usually if you're a 300 hitter with the longevity, it's usually a shoe-in to be a Hall of Famer but, you know, typically you need that sort of longevity, consistency, 500 home runs. I mean, not that 500 is a shoe-in anymore, it seems, but 500 is kind of that magic number, or 3,000 hits. If you're a hitter, but yeah, I don't know. Like if Aaron Judge's career comes to an end in the next, in a year and a half from now, by the end of 2027, like if he hasn't won and he's got less than 500 home runs, he might make a case, but
he'd be close to 500.
He'd be chomping at the bit, kind of around what Crime Dog and how long Fred McGriff had to sit there and kind of. I just
499.
Yeah, right. And so that sort of element to where I think you can look at Shohei and say that's a safe bet.
Yeah, definitely.
Don't know if Aaron Judge, and any Yankee fan listening to this right now might say, whoever is wearing that Expos hat, Cybulski, you're an idiot. But that being said, I just think for a sport that relies so much on numerical evidence, I don't think Aaron Judge is the sure bet compared to Shohei. Fair?
Yeah. Well, thing is too, the way people talk about Judge, and when I say people, like front office people who understand guys like him do not come around. Like he is really a special hitter, and to do what he does at that size is amazing. And baseball is one of those sports where team performance, in terms of collecting anyway, and I think overall legacy, I think team performance matters a little less, but not in Yankee Stadium. I think he's got to win one. If
agreed, I think he has to win.
Yeah, but I don't think he can possibly be out of the Hall of Fame. Like he's just been so spectacular, even in this era of so many more home runs and the stats being padded, but 293 average is incredible in this era, right? You can win an MVP hitting 280. I still think he's in. Like I still think if we weren't talking about, if Ohtani wasn't around, we'd probably just be talking about Judge all the time, and saying, this is a little ruffle some feathers, but he's a little McDavid-ish right now, right? He's been to some World Series. He's picked up some serious stats, but not won the big one yet. And obviously he's older than McDavid, but it's not that different.
No, well, I mean, you want a Yankee comparable until you win. How about Don Mattingly?
Yeah.
307 lifetime
people
hitter.
Love,
now,
yeah.
didn't have the
people
power.
Love, yeah.
Donnie Baseball.
Different player,
right?
for sure.
Yeah.
And didn't play long enough. You know, it's funny that I think when they won the World Series in 96, they wanted to give him a ring, but he had retired by 95.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't take it.
Like what a timing.
I
right?
know,
like,
out of all that, right. And
like carried that team through some terrible years in the 80s.
Yep.
Like growing up in the 80s, the Yankees were miserable.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It was basically, Don Mattingly. You had a moody Ricky Henderson for a minute.
Very moody. Yeah.
A moody Dave Winfield for a moment, right? Or at least was getting ripped on by George Steinbrenner.
Yeah, you're right. He's if he had just a couple years later, it would have meant a lot to him. But I don't know. He should be close. I think he'll end up in the Hall of Fame one of these days. I mean, he was such a good player for not a huge length of time, but there was probably 5 years. You'd say he's the best hitter in the league.
Well, it's funny though. Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I got 13 years, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you played 13 years in Major League Baseball. Like that's pretty good. That's a pretty good run, right? Like, and a guy who was consistently healthy for the most part. Like, I had the odd bump and bruise, but his batting average is like, just looking at what he did year after year, like 343 one year.
Amazing.
324, 352, 327, 311, 303. Like consecutive years from 84 until 89. Like that's a hell of a run during what was kind of deemed a dead ball era, right? Like not a lot of mashing going on in those days.
No, but he was one of those guys you just literally check the box. He's starting the All-Star game every year. He was just one of those guys like Cal Ripken, like Wade Boggs. He was just one of those guys. He's a starter in the All-Star game. And
Gold Glover too, did it with the glove. Anyway,
yeah, he did.
Talk about going off on a tangent. How we got Donnie Baseball involved in a Shohei Ohtani and Aaron Judge conversation. Sticking with baseball. Look, our Brock alumnus here, Fab, you are a baseball guy, but Brendan Lawson with the Florida Gators, a Cardinals draft pick from a couple of years ago, but recently named to the 2026 Golden Spikes Award midseason watch. This is tracking the best of the best in both college and high school. He's from the Toronto area. He has belted them out already 11 home runs in the season. He's got his on-base percentage, walk numbers atop the SEC, and that, as we all know, was the big kid conference in sports in the NCAA. Let's talk about, from a collectible standpoint, the numbers moving. How hot, or are we talking about another Rock Cybulski, or where are we at here with Brendan Lawson?
I think it's exactly what we're talking about. And
smell what the Rock is cooking, and smell what the Law is cooking. Laying down the Lawson.
Let's talk a little bit about how small the baseball card world is, or the baseball world, and specifically the Canadian baseball world. So Brendan Lawson, first of all, his dad went to McMaster. His dad is Trevor Lawson, and he's now a lawyer in the Toronto area. I played against him for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
So that part is unbelievable to start with. Second of all, when the Canada Games were held in the Niagara area in 2022, he was on Team Ontario. And I helped out with the baseball tournament as kind of a liaison with the scouts that were there. I'd help them out with rosters and just whatever they needed. And I was there to, experience this great level of baseball. It's in the Niagara area, obviously close to Brock. And Brendan Lawson is the shortstop for Team Ontario. And at the time, the scouts were talking about him. He's a second or third rounder, unbelievable bat, just does everything really well. And here we are in 2026. Brendan Lawson, from Toronto, whose dad went to Mac, is now number 1 on the 2027 Major League Baseball draft list. He's the top prospect for next year. So we talked about Rock Chalowski for this coming year. People are already talking Lawson as the number 1 pick next year, more than a year ahead of time, which doesn't happen very often. And playing at such a big school, Florida Gators, an unbelievable, skill set, does everything really well. And he has almost the exact same card situation as Rock Chalowski. Has his first cards in 2023 Leaf sets. So that's, again, that perfect game, high school showcase set, all kinds of different variations. They did autographs, one-of-ones, parallels. There's quite a variety of stuff to collect. But you basically take our chat about Rock Chalowski a couple of weeks ago and bump it up a year, and you have Brendan Lawson. Shortstop, all of it. It's almost paralleled and amazing, but such an awesome Canadian story as well. And again, I've been trying to poke the people at Topps about the using their Bowman U, their Topps Now, to get some of these college baseball guys on cards early. Those college colors and jerseys are great, and it's that stuff. That's that new next level of licensing that collectors love. Like, yes, a high school showcase card is pretty neat, but show me an autograph of him in a Gators jersey, with all kinds of cool colors. Like, that's pretty exciting. And I've heard his dad's a collector too. I think he collects music and all kinds of different things. But anyway, just another little poke to the Topps guys. Let's get going on Lawson too.
Cooking. All right, so there you go. So there's your baseball. If you're prospect mining, if you're not aware, be aware. Okay, look, it's WrestleMania season. Here we are. It's April. I don't know if I love the fact that they're pushing WrestleMania this late into the year now. Anyway,
it is later than usual, right? Yeah,
it was always kind of
right now.
Yeah, end of March. It was typically end of March, first few days of April over the years, but they've tried to push it down a little bit later and maybe try to wait for the weather to warm up more, whatever the case. But here they are. But from a collectible standpoint, we are now looking at the 2026 Topps Chrome WWE series, and they're introducing debut patch autos. So this is and there's a buzz. Now look, there's a couple of blue chippers, like a couple of big time stars that have a chance to just be all world. Obafemi, Trick Williams, Obafemi, who was wrestling Brock Lesnar here at WrestleMania.
We're playing in your sandbox right now.
Yeah, just no, but it's fun. Like, I've got a couple of wrestling, like, obviously, just kind of played around with it over the years, and like we've talked about, I think, my story collecting the football players who transitioned, and so the old rookie cards of Ernie Ladd from the '60s and Wahoo McDaniel. Actually, you know what? I think I just said this to you recently, but I have a Bronco Nagurski 1955 Parkhurst card from when he finished playing pro football. He got into professional wrestling. So you're talking about one of the original legendary rock stars of the National Football League, of the football world. And when he finished, I think a lot of people forget or don't remember the fact that he became a pro wrestling star for a number of years after.
It's a very popular card from that set. It's one of the key cards of the set. We have both. I believe it's 54 and 55. Those are the 2 years of Parkhurst.
Yeah, those are the 2 years that Parkhurst did wrestling cards. Yeah.
And those are extremely popular, but also extremely rare. I mean, being both Canadian releases, the first U.S. wrestling card set, I don't think came around till 1982. You probably know that All-Star, what is it? Wrestling All-Stars set, which has the Hogan rookie and Andre the Giant.
You can find someone from Japan with Andre.
Yes, you can. Yes.
But a lot of the North American wrestling stars, their rookie card is from that sort of 82 series, whether
Yes.
it's Jesse Ventura,
Yep.
so many, I mean, you name them from that period, the Iron Sheik,
They're in
like
there.
anybody from
Yep.
that period, Roddy Piper,
Yep.
they're all pretty much in that all-star wrestling card series that you alluded to.
There's a big gap. There's the 54, 55 set, which is heavily collected. Wrestling collectors of all ages follow that stuff because there's names that people still talk about and still remember, and there's pioneers in there. And again, that's a set that's heavily collected, very rare. Just being a Canadian release, it's just the population alone keeps those numbers pretty low. But yeah, those are sets we actually have in our market report section that people can check out in terms of the key cards. What are the key cards of the set? How collectible are they? How many have been graded? And the Parker stuff, there not much has been graded at all. And I see it as kind of an interesting opportunity because wrestling collecting is getting huge. Like, so you mentioned the Topps Chrome, the 2026 Topps Chrome that's coming. Oh my God, the way people are excited about it.
That's sold out already, right? The pre-sale?
The first pre-sale was gone within probably not even an hour. And they break it up into different tiers and different SKUs. So there's, pre-order to the public, pre-order to retailers. That's probably going to be a product that ends up in the big box stores as well. So they do multiple SKUs, all with different configurations. Some parallels will only be available in particular SKUs and so on. But like you said, the patch autos. So like we've been talking about with baseball, basketball, they take these patches that the wrestlers wear on their costumes for their debut, whether it's for SmackDown or Raw, and I'm sure they're going to be doing it for WrestleMania for a later release. So yeah, the young up and comers, man, and it sounds like it's a really interesting group of guys coming up, and girls, of course.
Yeah. They've got a bumper crop of some potential superstars, like legit stars that can bring that sort of mainstream appeal. But I wasn't, sorry for seeming distracted if anybody was watching on the two shot, but as you were mentioning it, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I couldn't find the one I have slabbed, the larger, but you talked about those Menko cards from Japan.
Yeah.
So here, just because it's WrestleMania weekend, they've got their Hall of Fame class and part of the legacy wing for the WWE. One of my favorites from when I was a kid was Bad News Brown, or for Calgary wrestling fans, Bad News Allen. But this is a Menko
that's
card
cool.
from Japan.
Is that a judo card?
That is a wrestling card. But Alan Coach, who was Bad News Brown, was an Olympic judo medalist in the 76 games in Montreal. And here he is. He started wrestling in Japan as Buffalo Allen, and there is a Menko card. But look at how thick that thing is, man. And that is thicker than some plywood. Yeah, there's the back there.
That's right. And so all those are the different games that kids could play on the back. Yeah. They'd be all kinds of different things. That's a really nice shape, by the way.
It is good shape. I haven't
great
got
on that. Yeah. Get a sleeve on that thing, dude.
I should. Yeah, I know. It's just been sitting. It's funny. I have not been treating it with the TLC. I probably should. I mean,
you've learned nothing.
It's in a top loader, but it's
okay. Good enough.
It should be it should be slabbed. But I actually have they have the larger versions of those cards as well, and so I have
interesting.
I have the what would be deemed his rookie card, a PSA 6 of that one. But again, the scarcity of those are
right.
Yeah, there's not a lot of them, right? So anyway,
it's one of the funnest parts of non-sport is the exploration. Cards can be discovered. That card's from 1976. We talked about the Donkey Kong Menko with Mario's first appearance. The discovery of it was in the last year that people realized, oh my God, it's the first.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's that part is cool. And that, and it's open to what people like, music cards, film, and then there's the question of whether it's the actor's debut or the character's debut, right? There's different games you can play. Well, wait a minute, that's Rocky's Rookie, but Sylvester Stallone has a Panini sticker from this year, and there's a lot of good discussion you can have with non-sport.
Absolutely. No, I mean,
just to confuse the rookie card debate even more.
Yes. Just to keep it murky, just so we'll all spend money chasing the dragon, right? Okay, that's just life, and this is why we're doing this podcast here.
Hey, that's right. Yeah, let's discuss this stuff.
There's a story I want to save till the next episode, but as we kind of wind down, recently, I guess with respect to non-sport, but I guess an element of sport crossover as well. A pop culture icon just passed away in Chuck Norris. And the legend of Chuck Norris really kind of went to different stratospheres over the last probably 15 years, and how, there was an earthquake. Oh, Chuck Norris farted kind of thing, right? Like just how badass this guy was. But legitimate karate champion. For anybody who goes back, loves Bruce Lee movies, there's a classic fight scene with Bruce and Chuck. And then Chuck went on to become one of the great action heroes in the 1980s. Maybe not quite to the lengths of Schwarzenegger and Stallone or Van Damme, but Chuck, I would also say, was probably more legit than all of those guys. So, had a good run on television as well, Walker, Texas Ranger. But with his passing, there is the collectibles market, and oftentimes when someone passes, usually in a posthumous sort of world, there typically becomes like a spike in the collectible industry. Do you want to go down this road? Are we? We're seeing this trend now with Chuck, but I think this is cyclical. I think of anybody who passes away, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And I try to see it as a positive thing, right? Like, some characters and athletes, when they pass away, you remember. Yeah, and it kind of, you get a gut punch from it. And the way I like to look at it is that collectors think, hey, I remember him. I hadn't been thinking of him recently. I should go after something just to have the memory of him alive in my collection. And typically, of course, you're going to get people that take advantage of the situation, obviously more, and especially when it comes to autographs. Autographs, you see a lot of them up for sale. A lot of them up for auction. A lot of them at inflated prices because they know this is, kind of the peak of the market. But like I said, I try to keep it in more of a positive light where collectors that are finally the ones holding these pieces want to say, hey, I remember this guy. I thought he was great, and I want him to have a spot in my collection. So that's the way I look at it. A lot of people think of it a little bit more negatively, whereas, people trying to take advantage and so on. And of course, there's an element of that, people wanting to make a buck, and I get it. But it is definitely a trend in the market. And, probably the most significant we've ever seen was the passing of Kobe, because it was so unexpected, right in the middle of his life. And I mean, during COVID, and it's weird to say because you see him a lot on social media, right? He was so ahead of his time. He knew so much, and especially about, positivity and what made him great. And he could talk about it, and like no one else. And for a guy
very charismatic and probably
absolutely.
The great link from the old school to the new school, right? Like
absolutely
came in the mid 90s, but then played right up until, was it 2016? I think his last season, right?
Yeah, yeah. And the way he talked about knowing his game and knowing what made him mentally tough, and he understood, that winning and losing was just the byproduct of how hard you worked. It wasn't a reflection of you. It's just the result. And especially for a guy who didn't go to college, he's a very well thought out man who, like you said, charismatic. Like when you see Kobe speak, you stop and listen. And yeah, that was probably the biggest instance of, the autograph market really, really going into hyper mode. But yeah, that's just part of collecting, and yeah, it was cool to see a lot of the highlights and clips of Chuck Norris over the last couple of weeks. You kind of forget about all the cool things he's done, and you said it. Some of the battles with Bruce Lee were just awesome.
Oh yeah, and I mean it's you know what, it's funny. Like I look back on obviously Chuck and how he crossed over, but you touched on Kobe. It's funny to think the first time I heard of Kobe, he was playing high school ball in Philadelphia, and you and I growing up in Ottawa, in the evening, the signals from AM radio, you could pick up those out of market stations later at night. And I would listen to WFAN New York in the evening.
Oh, right.
And so 660 WFAN would bleed into the Ottawa area. It had to be like, dinner time and then more at midnight. And it was scratchy, but I could listen, in my room, and I would listen to the late night shows and, all the conversations. And there was a longtime writer, Dick Hoops Weiss, who was, all over the basketball scene. And I remember somebody just, hey, what do you think? Who do you keep an eye on? Anybody out there we should know? And he was like, there's a kid, Kobe Bryant. He's the son of Jelly Bean Bryant. And I'm telling you, this is the best basketball prospect I've seen in about 30 years. Right. It was like, oh, okay.
Cool.
Kobe Bryant, right?
I didn't know that.
Now, again, you're just listening on the radio and talking about it. And then like a year or two later, he gets drafted. And obviously the rest, 5 championships later, and a guy who's definitely in the conversation, depending on who you want to argue with. Some would argue he's top 5. I think it's easy to say top 10 for sure, but tremendous career, and probably the closest thing to MJ, 2.0 kind of thing, just in terms of how he approached the game, the way he tenaciously attacked, the way he evolved his game from flying to, developing that jumper. So all of it. So clearly it's in the collectibles world, gone, but not forgotten.
But not forgotten, especially today. He's still as collectible as ever, honestly. And in fact, there was, we all remember the $13 million Jordan Kobe dual autograph, dual logo man patch that Kevin O'Leary and his group purchased.
Is that thing worth as much as he's kind of talking?
I don't know what to believe with him, but I respect him as a businessman. I know he's new to trading cards, and so he's got a team of veteran collectors for sure, and they've always traded in the high-end basketball market, and they understand it well. I don't know how he justifies his new valuations, just kind of claiming that his $13 million Kobe Jordan is now $17 million because he's brought attention to the hobby, which is cool, wearing his other triple logo man at the Oscars. When have people talked about trading cards at the Oscars?
At the Oscars, yeah.
Right, and that's cool. The details of how, what he puts out there, I'm not fully on board. I'd like to hear more where his valuations come from. And, he equates a lot of these high-end cards to art. Like if he's buying art in the 50s and 60s of, Picassos and all these masters, that's
art.
There's a Picasso.
Art. Neil Adams.
We got to talk about that comic book and the trading card that goes along with it. That's,
let's set something up. For free comic book day is coming up first week of May, so let's dedicate an episode to some
lots of Batman, lots of Superman. Yeah, we'll do that.
Absolutely. You found a way to shoehorn Spider-Man in every episode.
I did.
We're clearly, I'm a Spidey guy. We have our biases, right? Like, you can clearly tell what vintage we are, right? Talking about Bo Jackson, Chuck Norris, just a couple of unks telling stories and trying to help you make money. Look, they're giving us the go home cue. Hey, listen, if you have not yet, be sure to check out GRADExmedia.com, the GRADEx website. For those of you that may not know, I know a lot of you are quite familiar with obviously the resources and the information that Fab brings to the show and it brings to the game and the industry as a whole. But don't forget to check out Collectibles U. If you're starting to dip your toe into the industry or starting to get into collectibles and you want to have a better understanding, Professor Fab is here to help you out. So brings a wealth of expertise, not just from a convention standpoint, not just as a hobbyist, but as an absolute educated, informed individual who is looking to pass that knowledge along to you as well. So check out the website. You can click on the link on the menu. There's Collectibles U, and you can find all sorts going down, whether it's cards, comics, so many different things, Fab. I mean, it's kind of a host of everything.
Yeah, it's kind of good practices about collecting. You know, there are some general rules about collecting, that good ways on how to take care of your stuff, how to make a deal, how to do research on your items. You know, it's important to get into this with a bit of a knowledge base, because unfortunately you can make mistakes, and that's how you lose new collectors. You know, you think you're going down this right path and you just weren't informed about this little element of grading, and it, you know, led to a bad decision. That's what we're trying to avoid. Like mistakes that all of us have made, lay them out so others can avoid it. And yeah, Collectibles U is a nice thing, and they're living documents too. We talk about the history of trading cards, grading, licensing, NIL, all of it, and they're constantly being updated with what's going on in the world. Like for instance, just in the last few days, Topps got the NFL license back. And so the excitement for it is 2025 Topps Chrome NFL. So they will be using the 25 rookie class in the product. But that major property of the NFL has gone from Panini to Topps, and that's a really big deal for many reasons. So we try to keep all elements of Collectibles U up to date with what's going on. Like I said, like living documents.
Okay, that'll do it for this week's edition. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. Be sure to like and subscribe if you're following along on Instagram, or be sure to follow along on social media channels as well, on Instagram, on X. You can find us all over. He's Fab Del Rio. He's the Professor. I'm James Cybulski, and we'll talk to you next time right here on the GRADEx Show on Earth. Peace.